Happy Monday and happy Groundhog's Day. And with our artifact group, we call it Mammoth Monday because we just try to find all the artifacts that we have that have mammoths on it. What do I have around here that might have a mammoth? Right offhand, well, this one might be. I mean, I traced it. I don't know if you can see. Like, there's like one, like if the trunk was going down that way. That's not that obvious. I have better ones. If you've seen some of my collection, this is one I have on a necklace, and I think it's kind of cool. But you can kind of see like that kind of curl shape there. I mean, it might just be subjective. If I turned it over, there's kind of one that way, but yeah, those are not good examples. I do have better ones. Anyway, so I was doing some editing on one of my novels, and this is a big one. This is the second one, so I'm trying to release them. So the first one in this series is the Moonlit Sorceress, Lost in Edenland. This is book 2, Moonlit Sorceress, Broken Oaths and Revelations. And what's it about? Oaths that are broken and some things are revealed. Revelations, okay. So I don't want to give it away. So as far as one of the broken oaths here, there's a situation where these sorcerers have to keep oaths. I mean, that's the one thing with Samuel, the sorcerer's apprentices. He's like the golden boy, and he's trying to do the best thing by his master, because he wants to become the master sorcerer at some point. And that's they have levels. They have to be affirmed into like how talented they are. I call them degrees. So like a full-fledged sorcerer, like in one of the upper, like I think I had Master Strathern. He was at his degree was about at the 11th. He was up there. He was very high. One of the founding sorcerers would have been more like a 12. But usually they have to have like a committee to kind of decide like what degree they're at. So Sam is really trying to impress people. Well, since he found Lila, and Lila just happens to be from the old world, from our world, and this like opens a lot of doors for him. He's like, the doors for discovery. He's like, I did this. I brought this chick from the old world back, and we all thought the old world was vanished. We thought the Lord had washed it away with all the sinners, you know. There's a lot of backstory there. It's almost like believing in our world, you'd be like a flat earther in their world. So it's kind of a fun way to think about it. We don't exist in their world. So just imagine that, like, we are not reality. Their world is reality, but we are not. So you get it? So Lila is just trying to make it, and she really does want, she's trying to get back. Well, she obviously, with the first book, it was Lost in Edenland. She obviously didn't get back in that book, so she's still lost in Edenland. But she's having some problems, And something happened at Willow Bend Manor, and she ran. And the only place she could think of going was Samuel's family's homestead, where, you know, everything's like Little House on the Prairie there. You know, like he got his ma and pa there to, you know. Okay. Actually, he has 3 cute little sisters, just, you know, like the little Ingalls sisters. No, he has a stepmother, and she's like slightly older than him, which is kind of really awkward, but that's his mom. and his father was really kind of reluctant to let him study with the sorcerer, but that's all he had left, and he knew it would be a good thing. But anyway, Lila went over there because she thought it would just be safer for her there, and Sam says, no, you really can't stay here. We have you living as a lady in the master's house, so you need to go back. So he takes her back, and it's about a good 5 miles and on horseback, and they stop at the Shimmering Lake, and they stop for, you know, a break. And while they're there, he's trying to figure out why she ran in the first place. And so in this chapter, I have it in like 3rd person perspective from Sam's point of view, and where the rest of the story is mostly in Lila's point of view. So he's trying to figure out, let's see if I can find this. He tries to humor her on the way there, and he's learned some of, he's been playing on Lila's phone, and he's been listening to music that's been loaded into the phone, and he's learning about music groups and modern things. Those things really fascinate him. And so he's trying to humor her with that. So Samuel leaned into the crook of the bleached driftwood log and waited for Lila to return. He wanted to address why she ran away and some of the cold behavior she had displayed. Lila, I know not what I do that offends thee. I harbor doubts that thou merely abandoned Willowbend for the sake of apathy. Thou left in haste, with signs of a traumatic ordeal, as expressed by the housekeepers. Lila shrugged. I couldn't breathe there. Wherefore hast thou inquired me about mind control yester eve? He asked. No reason, she shrugged again. Samuel's suspicions were raised. He reversed his tactics. I have considered allowing William in our secrets. Therefore, entrust upon him to look out for thee, since I cannot be present at all times. Are you that dense? She snapped at him. Nay, Lila, I am that clever, so pray tell, what hath that vile deuce done? And I shall have him flayed, and his skins hung for privy curtains. I trow he was up to his wiles when as thou bade him to sit for the drawing. Thou ne'er mentioned liking his physique. And the joke there is Lila's an artist, and she went into the library, which was kind of awkward because the women kind of stick with the women's, things that knitting and crocheting or whatever they're going to do in the parlor, while the men hang out in the library and play games and be men. So, Anyway, she walked in there with her sketchbook, and she was like, she saw Sam and decided she wanted to draw him. And he never heard the word physique, so William intercepted her because he's got money. We're we could you could be a portrait artist, and so she should be drawing him. So Sam's a little bit jealous. It's like, thou never mentioned liking his physique. Lila's face went pale. You say you're under oath to never control or enter a person's mind, but you can do it. She avoided his question by asking another question. I've ne'er attempted that, he said. I want you to try to take over my mind. Right now, she ordered him. What? I shan't. He refused. He was adamant. Don't harm me or do anything bad or sexual, she persisted. Thou art mad. I won't hearken to thee. He covered his ears. You will hearken. I need to learn to defend myself, and for you, I am allowing you to do something you haven't tried before, so you aren't really breaking an oath, are you? She attempted to rationalize with him. Lila, a normal person cannot defend themselves against a sorcerer's powers. 'Tis futile. He tried to explain. Then I'm not normal, I promise. I'll not tell anyone about this, she swore. He sighed, then sat up before her. What happened to cause this? Why was he letting her do this to him? He rubbed his temples, closed his eyes, and concentrated. He made his first attempt to enter into her mind. She started to giggle. What? He stopped the connection. I'm sorry, it tickles. Try again, Lila said. 'Tisn't supposed to tickle. Rest thee. I'll enter thy mind, then thou wilt expel me, and 'twill be done, he said. Oh, and protect your nuts. I don't want to hurt you too bad, she warned. Lila, thou hast me afeard. I'm not so certain I care to do this. Samuel seriously was ready to back out. Try again, she insisted. Reluctantly, he shut his eyes, but she giggled again. He rose from his reclined position. Switch places with me, he said. We'll try another method. Ergo, may we be on our way anon. Why? Lie into the crook of the log. I shall set thee into a slumber, then enter thy thoughts. I won't be aware then, she hesitated. Thou art far too keenly aware right now. Sleep. Samuel cast a spell over her hastily. Get in, get out, ergo, be on our way. She looked very peaceful, taking a midsummer noon nap by the lake. Samuel loathed this part, yet curious at the same time. He knew he was breaking an oath, but it was with Lila's permission. He sat on the rock in the sand beside Lila. He closed his eyes, and then, as if his spirit stepped outside of himself, he ventured forth into her mind. He navigated through a dark mist until his eyes opened again, and he passed waves of color in a vivid display of motion and light, orchestrated with a cacophony of sounds and voices. He was in the midst of a jumbled confusion when he suddenly found himself entering a bedchamber. And there she was. It wasn't a bedchamber in the manner or familiar to him. She sat on the edge of the bed strumming a guitar. She was in her bedchambers from her childhood, a place called Farmington. She wore cut-off shorts and a pretty lacy blouse. These were things Samuel had no perceptions of, but they were her own perceptions, and therefore he didn't question the idea of cut-off shorts or the style of the lacy blouse. She sang softly. She made no attempt to fight him off. He wasn't even a threat to her. It was as if he might have not been there at all, and he sat next to her and listened. She set the guitar down, stretched, and walked out of the room, and he followed behind her. He tried to turn around and back out when he realized where he was. Alas, the door had shut. And this part, I mean, it's not dirty or anything, but he actually followed her into the bathroom and didn't want to watch what she was doing. And he's like, come on, please, just throw me out. You know, I'm not supposed to be here. And he was, you know, it's more like watching like the things that women do, like she starts to put on makeup, and there's a few things in there kind of irrelevant to this reading. Methinks 'tis not necessary, Lila, thou art a natural beauty. Prithee, wilt thou send me away? He asked. She faced him, acknowledged his presence. She batted her eyes once. Come on. She urged him to follow her through the house. He thought it was all fascinating, like he'd entered a distorted window into the old world. She smiled and said, Let's go to the beach. He sighed, As thou sayest. He followed her to one of his greatest curiosities, a car. This grabbed his attention, and he found himself in the passenger seat. Buckle up, Lila pointed to the lap belt. I don't want to get ticketed. My dad's a cop and he'll kill me. He did as she said. He leaned back and enjoyed the ride through the dreamscape highway. She had the music on the radio playing, sunglasses shielding her eyes from the bright sunlight. She seemed pleasantly content. He wasn't familiar with these things, but it was things she knew from her world. Riding in a passenger seat of her car must be quite an experience. He struggled to make out the speedometer and figure out how fast the car could go, but it was not real. He saw only the blur of reality. She arrived at the beach. He watched as she unloaded the trunk. A colorful bag, a cooler, and a beach blanket. They walked across the sand, and she shuffled along on a pair of white flip-flops that kicked up the hot sand under her feet as she walked. Samuel was not accustomed to the idea of people just lounging on the sand, but this beach, to her perceptions, was a place of leisure. Lila laid on her blanket, not far from the water's edge, then shamelessly stripped out of her clothing. Lila, thou sayest. He tried shielding his eyes, but she wore colorful small clothes underneath. They were ornamented with fringe, strings, and beadwork. Not that the shorts were very modest either. Do you like my new bikini? She twirled around, modeling the exotic straps of colorful clothes that barely covered the most intimate parts of her body. Very nice, that is what I see of it. He nodded. He wondered if it was customary for old world people to prance about naked. If so, he'd better get used to it. She picked up a boogie board in one hand, and she took his hand and coaxed him to run with her down into the salty surf. He was perfectly aware it was all a dream, but it was the most fun he'd had in a long time. He had been drawn into the sensation of the cool rolling surf. He laughed with her when she splashed him. In return, he splashed her back. She let out such a joyous shriek. Rather than chase him away out of her head, she only drew him in. She took his hand and placed it on her bare midsection. A cold wave pounded them both. The dream was so vivid to Samuel's own perceptions that he could see the pattern of goosebumps form on her skin. She shrieked again as she took shelter against him. I would hate to wake thee from this vision, Lila. I see thou art enwrapped in such joy, he said, analyzing everything. She beamed at him with a childish grin. She gazed back into his eyes. She penetrated his soul. Don't be ridiculous. I'm here to protect you. Oh, look, she pointed. Samuel saw on the beach, under a colorful umbrella, sat Flora, Rose, and Fig. Nearby, Harold and Raleigh were building a sandcastle, one with croquet mallets erected from the sand surrounding their fortification. A surfboard shot past them. Lila jumped up and waved vigorously. Reverend Thatcher, in a pair of colorful shorts, he surfed above the crest of a wave, Bible in hand, gesturing with his thumb and little finger extended with his other hand. I'm just going to stop there. I am dropping a few hints, so there's a few things that I'm saying in this, especially in the last things that he's noticing about her. They're little Easter eggs that the reader would have to kind of pick up on. Samuel blinked his eyes, and never had he seen anything like that, but Reverend Thatcher looked like he was having himself a splendid time. No wonder Lila wanted to go back to the church. Lila, I think thou hast forgotten the reason I have come. Dost thou e'en recollect? Samuel asked, noting that she had drawn closer to him. And what dost thou mean thou art here to protect me? He stroked her cheek with his thumb. He'd never seen her smile so carefree as she was that moment. He'd never seen her smile so Her brown eyes sparkled in the sunlight, but faded. They became blue as the waters. It made him feel like a child again, like looking into the eyes of a lost friend. She turned from him. She gleefully ran back to the beach. Samuel followed, musing. Howe'er that this being a mere dream, I'm drenched. Thou hast still failed to send me away, Lila. He rationalized the situation, still in his regular tunic and breeches that clung to his body, saturated with cold, briny ocean water. Lila stood on the beach blanket with outstretched arms, her wet skin glistening in the sunlight. She waited for Samuel to come to her. He just couldn't believe how beautiful and inviting she was. Astounding, Lila. This must be thine paradise. That not thine, it's thy. Okay, let's see, this is why I'm editing it. This must be thy paradise. Whither thou might run free of the burden of clothing, he contemplated. I have a little picture, kind of stuck in there. I don't know if I can turn the camera right there. See if I can turn it. It's right there. I wish I had the ability to be able to flip the camera around. His heart swelled, being drawn into her welcome gesture. He was losing control of his own will. He stepped toward her, ready to take her into his arms, when someone else with a short, neat haircut, wearing a pair of colorful swim trunks, splashed out of the surf. He bumped into Samuel and knocked him off balance. The offending beachgoer ran straight into Lila's embrace. He pulled her body against him, and they kissed passionately. Samuel knew it was none other than her boyfriend, Kyle. Samuel exited the surf. He walked past them, but it was like he wasn't even there. He was just a soaking wet ghost that frowned upon something. Let's see. Let's get rid of that comma. He was a soaking wet ghost that frowned upon something. He knew he had no recourse. His own heart plummeted. It was merely a doltish dream. Samuel knew Lila herself had no control over these images. She was asleep, and he placed that spell on her. The time hath come to abandon this foolery, he said, and when he pivoted away, the scene changed. His clothing was no longer wet, yet he was still inside Lila's mind. Fragmented voices echoed in the darkness where he stood alone. The whisperings of children. It's the master. Don't go. No time to leave. It's the 14th hour. The echoes and whispers confused and bothered Samuel's ears. He found Lila again, and she hid alone in the shadows. He nearly became angered with her. However, this seemed to be a different Lila. She appeared forlorn and lost. What troubleth thee, lass? Did he harm thee? Samuel heard his own voice echoed back. There was a little light, much like when the moonlight penetrates through a barn door. It glistened across one of Lila's eyes that shone blue. I know what it's like to be dead. The fat tear rolled down her cheek when she blinked, exhaled, and said, I know what it is to be sad. Nay, thou art wrong. When I was a lad, everything 'twas right. He wanted to force some sense into her head and make her understand. You don't understand what I said, she shot back. I'm getting ready to leave. Thou art making me feel like I've ne'er been born. He backed away and vanished. She backed away and vanished into the shadows. Samuel moved forth. He entered a different space, and he saw glimpses. His sisters, Millicene, the farm. He realized he walked into a memory Lila had of the day before that, and it was reeling back. And I will end there. And did you catch that little thing I borrowed? I sometimes do that. I'll put little Easter eggs in there because there's things like from popular culture. All right, have a nice day, everyone.